Hey, what's your name?
My name's Janine Carmona.
And what are you doing out here in front of this beautiful mural in the Mission tonight?
Well, I'm gonna do this interview about the March to Sacramento. No, I'm talking about the March to Sacramento that I just went on, March for Civil Rights and to repeal Prop 8.
Tell me a little bit about that march.
So it is now finished and a success and concluded for a few days, and we marched for 6 days through the Sacramento Delta, through Walnut Creek and Antioch, basically to repeal Prop 8.
And tell me about walking. What was it like?
Walking was an amazing experience. It was really physically demanding and really sort of demanding in the fact that we had to solve a lot of problems while we were walking, but I think that through that we really sort of built this amazing community and family when we were doing that. We had a lot of problems. We had really high winds in the Sacramento Delta that was blowing us into the river. We had we got lost on trails. We had sort of a myriad of problems, but it was amazing and empowering at the same time.
You mentioned the community that we built along the way. Can you tell me about that community?
Yeah, completely. I think that was really based on people's sort of stories about why they were marching, and people just came from a lot of different walks of life, and looking at how these issues touched them was really amazing, and we really sort of shared in these amazing times, but also these really heartbreaking stories from the communities that we were walking through, which we really worked to build relationships with what we were going through. So I think that was a really big reason why we bonded.
Can you share maybe a story that really touched you along the way?
I think that the story about the UCC in Antioch really touched me, talking about just the struggles they've gone through to become a church that's open and affirming, and just, you know, struggles to accept people that just want to live their lives, and that was really touching to me.
And what about you personally? Like, what brings you to this? Why did you go on this crazy 6-day walk?
Well, I think that I went on it a lot, just basically for the obvious reason. Like, I think Proposition 8 needs to be repealed. I think that having a constitution that discriminates sets just a myriad of principles that I don't want to be a part of in my state and in my culture. But also, marriage isn't really, it's not really my first issue, it's not really my biggest issue, but I think that with this march there's an opportunity to create really the kind of community that is really based in stories, and therefore like encompasses this complexity of issue that's so important with Prop 8. And when you just get caught up in one legal battle around Prop 8, I think that it's easy to forget just how multidimensional people's stories are, and I think we really sort of encompassed a message in a community that was able to incorporate those different messages. So Proposition 8 and LGBT rights became the anti-war movement, became environmental justice movement, it became all these amazing things that it really does touch, and I think that was really, really important. So that's why I did it.
So you've been, one of the lead organizers with One Struggle One Fight since day one, and I wonder if you can just talk a little bit about sort of the process of bringing the march together and making it happen.
Well, it started with an amazing story. It started with, and I think it started with a lot of just anger and really feeling the need to not participate and not be complicit in the system that allowed Proposition 8 to be passed and allowed it to discriminate against us, and just committing this act of civil disobedience that we did right after Proposition 8 was passed, that essentially was where our idea came from to do the march. I mean, it's essentially born in this intersection that we blocked, which is truly amazing. I think is incredibly important, and just sort of like carrying it through till then and looking at, well, I don't want to sacrifice people's stories for this issue, and how can we build something that is a direct action and that is empowering, but that doesn't sacrifice complexity of issue to marriage, and how can we make it about people's personal stories and people's connections.
You keep talking about the complexity of issues and intersection of issues, and do you think that the march sort of embodied that? And can you give some examples of how this march represented a broader movement that's about more than just marriage?
Yeah, I think what that looks like is when you're doing something that's purely a legislative battle, like a lot of Prop 8 is, and a lot of it is in sort of in the dominant media right now, is it's a legal issue, it's a court issue. And so a lot of the time, people's stories get bypassed in that. which means that so it becomes about one thing. If you lose that one thing and it's an uphill legal battle, right, there's more of a chance of people getting burnt out, people getting confused about what's happening with the legal process. But when you really couch things in people's language and look at this as an issue of how can people make their lives better, and how are these things interrelated, you share in more victories as well as more losses, as opposed to this putting all your eggs in the one marriage basket.
Do you have a funniest moment from the march?
Funniest moment? There were a lot of hilarious, amazing moments. I would have to say that probably a really funny moment for me was when we realized that we were sort of lost out this 4 miles out this trail that was not the trail that we thought we were on and actually didn't exist. And Jackie and Angie, who are our point of the march, our march leaders, like with the directions, basically called me on the radio and said SOS, SOS. And we stood there looking at directions for a good while, and then we realized where we were in the middle of nowhere, but we were still so happy to be together and to be marching, and we're 4 miles out. And we had to backtrack, but it was, equally so amazing.
So in 5 months, One Struggle, One Fight has done a lot of crazy stuff, and we've just pulled off this march that we've been organizing for months. And now that march is over, like what are our next steps? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think Decision Day is our immediate next step, and looking at how we basically made this call for civil disobedience on Decision Day, and looking at how we can make that as effective and as well messaged as we can, and looking at basically being in solidarity with all the people who supported us and looking at their movements and making sure that we are really good partners, because I think that the LGBT movement at times could be a better partner in solidarity with organizations and communities. And so just exploring ways that we can continue to do that is really important. Keep going out to events, keep telling our stories, and basically looking at how we can sort of create the direct action civil disobedience that I think will really bring about change about these issues. And for prizes that are bigger than Proposition 8, right? It's not just, it's about surviving, whatever happens, whatever comes out of the Supreme Court, and looking at how we can continue as a movement. Because as a movement, it's not only about winning, it's about losing and being able to stay together after you could potentially lose, and being able to fight another day, because that is how we're going to win, is by a continuation of the struggle.
Cool. And I guess 2 more questions. One, we keep talking about civil disobedience, direct action, nonviolent resistance, and what is the goal and what is the value of using those kinds of tactics in our movement?
I think that the degree to which people allow themselves to be controlled is really the basis for a lot of inequality, and because the system so much depends on the complicity and obedience of the people inside it, right? Queer people are everywhere. We are in every workplace, and therefore, and that gives us a great power in this culture, in this society, that we could potentially revoke, right? We don't have to be positive, happy participants in a society that doesn't protect us and that wants to control us, or that just doesn't represent us. And I think that's really huge. And so direct action civil disobedience is in a lot of ways about withdrawing that compliance, and really acting with our bodies in accordance with what we believe in.
And then what's your hope for One Struggle, One Fight as an organization, and then more broadly for the movement that we're kind of situated within? What's your hope?
My hope is that we can help people and support people in taking to the streets and taking actions that really empower them and that they want to do, and help make those actions more well-messaged, more strategic, and basically more empowering and effective for the LGBT movement, and help that, and use that to make models and to build relationships and communities that will help us build the biggest, strongest LGBT movement that we can, and one that can really go for even bigger prizes and bigger moves toward equality, so that we can have more equal, more representative lives and relationships later.
So, thanks a lot.